Hello, everyone, and welcome to the reality TV RHAPpy Hour. I am your unofficial co-host, Taran Armstrong, filling in for Jordan Parhar tonight. We are live here on RHAPwebsite.com to talk about the latest Big Brother Canada 5 Eviction episode. And with me tonight is the man I am definitely not in a showmance with, Brent Wolgamott. How you doing, Brent?
Taran, having you on the podcast is just unbearable. I don't know how I can stand it. Yeah,
way too many unbearable puns tonight.
Yeah.
Also with me tonight is a girl who told me that she's Dylan's new Emily, Melissa Deni. How you doing, Melissa?
I've been taken under the Dylan spell, I think. Or maybe I've just gone insane. I really don't know. But, you know, he was coming across really funny and charming and great on the feed. So I think I've gone insane.
I can't believe what I'm hearing right now. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth right now. After just like a couple weeks ago, I was sitting there shuddering at the very thought. Now I'm just like, he's so funny though. But like, don't you think he's funny?
Unbelievable. All right. We have a chat room that is live on RHAPwebsite.com, and you can send questions in to me at Armstrong Taran on Twitter. So let's get straight into this episode. We start out with the fallout, or not the fallout, actually. We start out with the actual secret veto usage because there was a cliffhanger last time, and that was incredibly dumb. Tell me about this ceremony, Brent.
We talked so much about it last night. I mean, basically the ceremony was the beginning of the beginning for Karen's paranoia. I thought it was hilarious tonight that she called herself a witch, because I'm a big fan of the show Charmed, which of course had witches. And there was this episode where there was like a paranoia crystal. And I'm thinking that Karen got infected with that, because bitch's paranoia is just amazing. Like Dimitri said when he was talking in the diary room, to call her paranoid is a bit of an understatement. Obviously, Kevin got off the block. We saw the return of the Kevin clap. Yes.
Yes, I saw that.
And he was ecstatic about it, instantly figured out that it was William. The rest of the house guests still don't know. That was what we talked about last night, was that it's amazing that they don't know that it was William. And Karen is on the warpath. So that's where the episode took us.
Yeah, that felt so deflated to me, that moment. Seeing it in the beginning of this episode, the second half of it, like I know that it's been talked about that what a dumb decision it was to leave that on a cliffhanger, but like, man, it really just felt like, all right, yada yada, get this over with. Everybody knows already.
We already know.
Yeah, like.
Yeah. Last night I was so pumped and excited for it. I was like, okay, here we go. And then it was just like, and then this time it's just like, I'm like, okay, I'm over it. It's done.
That's exactly what happened.
Move on.
Because I, was doing my food and I'm like, okay, I don't need to worry about the first few minutes, because it's always like a recap of stuff. And so I got on, and literally as I turned on the show, it was Dimitri reading the card. And I'm like, oh, I just barely made it for this. Like I totally forgot. And then it was it was totally a letdown.
Yeah. And Karen right away talking to Dimitri. Yeah, you screwed your game up. You screwed it up.
Oh, God. I feel like they were being very kind to her in this, because there was a lot more they could have used. I mean, they could have had like the entire episode with her just like being crazy. And instead they kind of wasn't as like exciting as I thought they might try and make it. But
I agree with you in part. I do feel like they showed some of the bad side. I could hear the audience, because in Big Brother Canada, they let you hear the audience's reaction to what's being shown. And I heard some people gasp and moan at some of the things that she was saying to Kevin that were really, really harsh. On the other hand, Melissa, we had to save some time for this amazing bear competition. I mean, that was so what you want to see on a Thursday night when everything's all exciting is and they gave a whole $1,000 to charity. Wow, that's really good. Yeah, I'm throwing shade.
A whole $1,000. Brent.
Yeah, I'm throwing shade. Yeah.
Brent, that's money that's going to charity. That's important.
Yeah, a whole $1,000.
They're solving
Big Brother Canada. All right.
Yes, we see the Karen and Kevin argument here. It is, I do think it was a little bit edited, in Karen's favor as much as it could be. But certainly I don't think it came off well for Karen here. And we did see some cheering at Karen's at people evicting Karen, and some booing at people evicting Bruno. So I definitely think that there was some opinion shifting here. I don't know if that translates to the general audience or if it was just the live audience, but they definitely were not cheering for Karen.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. The people who go to the live shows are people like us who are really engaged and watch the feeds and really know what's going on. The general public who watches the show, they probably just think Karen's a crazy old lady, and she's, of course she's upset that she got put on the block. I will say one thing. I agree with Karen in part that I do think that Dimitri and Ika messed up their game even more than I think it's already messed up going into this coming week by nominating Karen, because she really was with them, and I don't think she is anymore. And Jackie is still a bit of a question mark to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Karen was basically the one person that was most loyal to Ika and Dimitri's. And I think the second most loyal was probably Kevin at one point earlier this week. And they also decided to throw him under the bus. So wrong choices here. And I think it's mostly stemming from Dre. Again, we got to give credit to Dre for completely snowing Ika here. What are you going to do when the one person you trust is leading you astray?
Yeah,
it's not much you can.
They talk about Ika being convincing all the time, but Dre is very convincing. She can convince anyone that she's with them. It's crazy how she can do it. I don't know.
Yeah. So we did see some campaigning from Kevin and Bruno. Basically, what they showed in the episode was a lot of what we had seen previously in the week, where they're saying to Ika and Dimitri, again, listen, these other 5, they're going to come after you. You are big targets. If I leave, then you are very vulnerable. You need us just as much as we need you. Let's do this. Let's roll to the final 4. We can run this together. If not, we're taking each other out, and they're laughing. And it almost works with Ika so many times, but it seems as though Dimitri is the one that kind of holds this back from working. What do you think, Brent?
No, I disagree with that. I think Ika's the one who's holding it back from working because she doesn't want to put Dimitri in a spot where effectively he makes a move that she wants him to make, and then he has to pay the price for it because she realizes he's the bigger target than her. So I feel like Ika, if she wanted to save Bruno, she could have done it, but she doesn't want to do it because she's consistently said to everybody, I don't want to convince him to make this move and then have to pay for it with his eviction the next week. And the other thing that really stood out to me is that Ika doesn't want to be made a fool. She doesn't want to be seen as a fool in Big Brother Canada. I think this is a recurring concept we have to come back to on a lot of reality shows, Survivor, Big Brother Canada, because people, especially returnees, they don't want to be seen as somebody who is laughed at by the audience for making the same mistakes that they might have made their first time around. Obviously, I'm excluding Cindy from this whole conversation. It seems to me that Ika, more than anything, especially in her eviction vote and in what she said afterwards in the goodbye message, she probably might have made this jump. Maybe strategically it makes sense, but on the off chance that she's reading him wrong, she doesn't want to be had by Bruno again after she feel in her mind she's been had by him so many times through this season.
Yeah, she likened him to like a cheating boyfriend in her goodbye message, saying, you cheated on me once, you lied to me once, you did it again. I can't trust you moving forward. I can't let you do it again. How did Bruno really cheat that many times? Like we've continued this narrative, which is that like Kevin and Bruno have been lying to Ika and Dimitri, had been betraying them. Is that really the case? Because what I remember is that they were both kind of at fault there. Like Ika and Dimitri were kind of building up their own army, just as Bruno and Kevin were also building up their army. If this is the reason why she can't do a move that is probably better for her, should she really be thinking in terms of they betrayed me when maybe that wasn't even the case in the first place, Melissa?
I think it's one of those biases that you don't really see your own faults. So I think that they're saying, yeah, you guys weren't loyal to us. You betrayed us. When really everyone was doing the same thing. If anything, I think Ika and Dimitri's were doing it more so because they really had their own side. Like they were really kind of separate from the 6. So I think that they just don't want to see it in themselves as being exactly the same. They want to be like, you guys betrayed us. It was you guys stepped away. So it's definitely like the eye of the beholder thing.
I would say, though, that Bruno and Kevin aren't helping themselves out by agreeing with Ika and Dimitri. It's like Ika and Dimitri say, you guys stabbed me in the back, you lied to me. And Kevin is like, Yeah, I know. But I'm telling the truth this time. And the god awful truth is he is. And Bruno, he is. They are telling them the truth this time. They were willing to go to the Final Four with Jamaica. I thought I said it wrong, but I said it right. Jamaica and Ika and Demetrius, they just couldn't see it. And I really feel like we're on. I feel like we're on the path to a very bad ending for Big Brother Canada. And now with the announcement of this triple eviction coming up next week, I feel like we're really in dicey waters here, Taran.
I agree. I mean, this triple eviction, I mean, let's talk about it. Like, it's been rumored, you know, they're going to have a triple eviction this season. And I think most of us on this podcast have been like, they're not going to do that. I mean, we know that they've made poor decisions in the past, but surely they're not going to do another triple eviction. Surely they would want 2 double evictions or something along those lines, because that would be much more fun. But of course, we have the announcement, a triple eviction announced with glee by Arissa on the show, to some, I have to imagine some forced cheers in the audience, surely. How do you feel about this triple, Melissa?
I'm so not looking forward to it. I think it's totally unfair. I hate the way that they do it. I hate the way that it's like structured. I was telling you guys earlier, you know, if it was in the form of just 3 evictions back to back, like as if it were like a double eviction and then another eviction, then I'd be fine with that. If they went through the same process, you know, you get the HOH, the veto, then the eviction. That's fine. Like as long if it all just happens rapid pace. But when they do this thing where it's like you get to, you know, just vote for one person that you want to save with 2 people or 3 people on the block, that sucks, because you're obviously going to choose. It just doesn't give people any chance. It doesn't give people who are in the minority any chance to stay. You have to be like in with everybody in order to stay. It's just horrible. It's horrible.
Okay, so I'm going to say what I said last night in regards to something else. This is some shady boots bullshit. This is what this is. Let me tell you, I cannot believe they have a sick sense of humor on Big Brother Canada, and I don't mean that in a nice way. You have a guy in the house right now, Kevin Martin, who was the victim of the triple eviction last time, and now you bring him back into the house, and you're going to bring back the triple eviction, which you got so much blowback for. Look, on this podcast,
nobody likes it.
I have said that I didn't mind the triple eviction as much as Alex and Taran when we were podcasting together 2 years ago. However, I also said that I would not bring it back because no one really liked it. And, you know, it's a really bad way for some of the power players to all go out together. And when you have power players in the house, you want the drama of each one of them being evicted single file. So I have problems with it from a structural perspective. From a human perspective, I don't know why they're doing this with Kevin in the house. I mean, they have to know that that was a risk when they decided to do a triple. Again, why not just do a double eviction and then the next week do another double eviction? That would be great because you get 2 nights of double eviction. And the other thing is that the house guests would never expect it. You know, the house guests can always they can feel when a double eviction's coming. If you did a double eviction, like let's say tonight, and then did another one next Thursday, they would never see that coming, and it would be totally fair. Again, I'm telling you guys, this is what's going to happen, and I pray to God that this is one of the times where you can say hashtag Brent was wrong. I really do feel like it's going to be Kevin, Ika, and Demetrius all out of the house by next Thursday. And what are we going to be left with, Taran? It's 6 freaking red shirts, as Alex Kidwell told me. 6 red shirts is what we're going to be left with. 6 nobodies that no one cares about other than their families. That is what you have wrought, Big Brother Canada. I hope you're happy with yourself.
I believe it's 5 red shirts, but point taken. Yeah. Yes, I completely agree. I mean, just for anybody that doesn't know the exact rules of a triple eviction, what happens is somebody wins HOH, they nominate 3 people, and then I believe 3 people are then chosen at random to compete in the veto with those 3 people. I'm not sure if the HOH competes. I think perhaps they don't. I
think it's just 2 people are actually chosen. So it's like, it's the HOH, the 3 nominees, and then 2 people chosen at random draw.
In the chat, they're saying HOH doesn't play in veto.
Oh, really? Are we sure?
Yeah, I don't. Okay. I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't really matter.
Okay, I have to go back and look. I'll look.
So they play in veto, and then ultimately there are 3 people on the block, and everybody votes to save one person, and the other 2 are evicted. And what this does basically is you can be very well set up in the game, but with 3 nominees, especially when there's only there will only be 7 people left in the house, so there will only be 6 people to choose from in the first place. Half of the house is going to be nominated. It's going to be very difficult to avoid nomination, and you could be very well set up in the game, have lots of connections, but there's one person of the 3 of you that's incredibly less threatening, and you're done. That's it. There's nothing that you can do about it, and it virtually guarantees that the worst player of the 3 survives, and you lose 2 players that probably could have done pretty well moving forward. And I mean, obviously, it's not the best TV either when, you don't really get any campaigning. They're just gone. And then all of a sudden, like Brent said, you could be stuck with just 5 red shirts. By
the way, I did look at. I'm sorry to interrupt your point. I thought you were done. I did look it up, and the HOH was ineligible to compete for the veto in the original triple eviction that they had on Big Brother Canada 3. However, that doesn't mean that's the way it's going to be this time. And by the way, even if that's true, that doesn't change anything. That doesn't make it all of a sudden more fair. That just means you know another name out of the bag. I mean, or I guess with only 5 people. With whatever, it's a terrible idea. They got so much blowback for it the first time. I'm honestly stunned. It's like, they're not stupid. Okay, it does seem like at times they have done things to say, okay, we hear what you're saying, guys. We listen to the fans, the people that are loyal to the show, people in Canada that watch all the time. But this is a real head scratcher. I really don't know what they're thinking.
It feels like maybe it's just like a case of people talk about the triple eviction, and it's one of the more commonly referenced twists. And so they're just like, oh, must be popular. I can't think of any other rational. I mean, not that that's rational, but any other any line of thought or logic that would create this.
I mean, also they could be thinking it's better to be talked about and then not talked about at all. So maybe talked about in maybe a not so positive way, or maybe talked about in like a, wow, that was crazy, that sucked kind of way.
I mean, I would agree with you, but I mean, I go on my Periscope and rail about Big Brother Canada and the things that are wrong with it sometimes. And then Arissa comes on a podcast and says, well, we don't want to talk too much bad about the show. I mean, we want to keep on a happy face. So you can't have it both ways, and Arissa is a friend of this podcast. But if on one hand you're saying, well, we don't want to talk too bad about the show, but on other ways you're saying, well, it's better to be talked about even if it's in a bad way. Well, those two things can't coexist. So I'm going to talk bad about it for now and say it's a really boneheaded decision. I don't throw any shade at Arissa for hyping it at the end. That's her job. She's the host. It's obviously not her decision, but it's a bad call.
Yeah, and I mean, again, to top it off, the more boring stuff about this is that, it's also not a very fair twist, which obviously no twists are fair, but it gives way too much power to the person who just happens to win that particular HOH, and to the person that is the outgoing HOH, very unfortunate for them because they don't get to compete in the most important HOH competition, and they obviously have no way to predict that the triple is coming up.
Right, so, exactly. And in the last time around that they did the triple eviction, Kevin Martin was the outgoing HOH going into the triple eviction. So, I mean, God forbid if that happens again.
I know. I mean, to go out the same way would be very unfortunate. So yeah, triple eviction, not a fan. I wish they hadn't done this. You could have gotten 2 doubles. Doubles are fun. Why can't we just do doubles?
Yeah. And you know what? Like I said, if you had a double and then followed by another double the next week, the house guests would totally not see it coming. And when people don't see stuff coming, they make dumb decisions, like what Cindy did in the double. When people aren't able to talk to people, and things are moving at a rapid pace, that's when you get fun television. That's when people's emotions come out because they can't say things the way they want to say them, so their emotions get in the way and cloud their judgment, and their mouth talks a little bit too much. That's what you want. But I don't know why you're going to blow your wad all in one night. Yeah,
or at the very least, have 2 doubles over the course of one night, right? Have a double eviction and then be like, guess what? It's still not
it's another
over.
one. Yeah.
And you can still call that a triple. Because it's still
it is
going
still
on.
a trip. Yeah.
That'd be great. Oh my God, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Right. All right. So we also, getting back to the episode, we also got a segment from Kevin and William here. This was the first sort of negative stuff I've seen for Kevin, I think, for most of the season. I mean, we've definitely gotten stuff where he's saying that he's playing Will, but not a whole lot of like sad William in response. And I feel like that's what really garners the negative reaction. Kevin says he wants to make sure that William understands that it's just flirting. There's nothing more. And he hopes that William doesn't think there's anything more. He makes it very explicitly clear to William, I don't consider this a showmance. And William is not too happy about this, Brent.
Yeah, well, I think a couple of things. First of all, William can go climb a tree for all I care. I mean, he's basically been told by Dre, like, he's using you. And Kevin has admitted at various times, yeah, I've used him in parts, and I know the timeline here may be a little messed up as far as when he admitted that this week and the events following the secret veto and everything. But, I mean, he knows that Kevin's gaming him. And again, he doesn't care. He likes Kevin. He likes flirting with him. And I'm going to just give you the realty for a second. Not to throw any shade at William, but I guess I'm going to have to. But like a guy like William's not normally going to get to be with a guy like Kevin. I mean, like it would be like if I was in the house and I was with Kevin. Like, we're both like, or at least I'm gay and Kevin is sort of fluid about his sexuality. There's not a lot of choices around if you're feeling something. And, yeah, you're a good looking guy and I'll cuddle with you a little bit. I just don't see that. I don't see them hooking up in real life. I don't think that William is a guy that Kevin would normally go to in real life. That's my read on the situation. And that frequently happens in the Big Brother house because you're trapped in there with people that you don't get to see anybody else on the outside. These are the only people who are your company. So I don't think that William should think anything about it. On the other hand, I feel like Kevin's doing a bad job, not because he's being portrayed badly, but because he just needs to be honest with William here and say, look, William, I'm worried about us being seen as a pair. I don't want us both to be on the block together. So is it a showmance? Maybe, but I don't want other people thinking it's a showmance. I don't want that word coming out of other people's mouths. And so we just need to be careful about this going forward. Otherwise, it's going to be you and me on the block, and you don't want that. And I don't either. That's what he needs to say. Instead of he's kind of trying to play William a little bit here and say, well, it's not really. So it's not really a showmance. So of course, William feels taken aback by that. Like, well, it is a showmance. It's almost like you're invalidating William's feelings there. And Kevin needs to realize that those feelings, however misplaced they might be, are valid. And he needs to try to rectify the situation so that William doesn't feel like he's been had.
Yeah, I feel like he should have gone about it that way and say, like, look, we don't want to be seen as a pair. People are starting to pair us together. Like, let's just separate a little rather than trying to make him feel bad. Like, I just don't see why he had to be like, well, this is not a showmance and kind of like laugh about it. Like, of course it's a showmance. Like, as much as Kevin wants to say it's not, it's definitely a showmance. Like, I'm sorry, like William's right. Like, if you're going to do all that stuff then and say it's not a showmance, well, then what is a showmance? Like, I don't understand. Like, that's what it is. So it's just.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
No, it's fine. You can go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, this reminds me of like when I was like 18 and I was with like a guy who eventually turned out to be straight and we slept together. And then the next day he's like, well, I'm not gay or anything, like, I don't do that sort of thing. And I'm like, well, what were you doing last night? Yeah, come on. Yeah, that's totally it. Yeah.
No, it's not fair to William because Kevin seems to only want to be, in a showmance with William when it's convenient to him. And, we can say, oh, well, William knew he was playing him. Like, Dre told him. But I will say that when William confronted Kevin about, like, are you playing me? Kevin's like, I am not playing you. I am not playing you at all. And tried to, like, really reassure him that he wasn't playing him and that they really did have a connection. And William's like, oh, thank God. Like, I thought you were playing me. And he felt relieved. And now all of a sudden it's back to like, yeah, well, but we're not anything. Like, you know that, right? Which is just like, come on, Kevin.
Yeah, but it's also in the eye of the beholder, though, because I don't feel like Kevin thinks he is playing William. I feel like he does have an honest to God connection with him, and he really enjoys his company, and he likes hanging out with him in the house, certainly more than a lot of other people. But on the other hand, he's always going to do what's best for his game. So if go ahead.
But it's just, I think that you're right. And I think that in his head, he's not playing him because he's like, I'm not playing him. I genuinely care about the guy. Right. But he's making William, we're going back to like the whole argument about like people don't want to look stupid. And he's making William look stupid by then going into the diary room, even if maybe this isn't true, but saying to America or to Canada, like, oh, this is all game. Like, this means nothing to me. William means nothing to me. It's just making William look stupid, even though Kevin might actually have real feelings for him. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think something that people forget is that Kevin did the same thing to Peely on season 3. He was in the diary room saying, this is how I'm going to manipulate Peely into doing what I want. I mean, this is something that's I think kind of reoccurring with Kevin. And I think a large part of it is just Kevin and just the way that he speaks, and like he tries to be honest in a particular way, which just makes him come across as disingenuous. And we've talked about that before, but it does seem like he cares about William. He likes William a lot. He wants to work with William. He doesn't want to be in a showmance, and he tries to be honest about, like, very upfront about that with William, but in different ways at different times. And obviously William ends up just very confused because he interprets it a certain way at a certain time, and then he interprets it a different way at a different time. And it seems like something that should be relatively straightforward comes across as very confusing and aloof, because, I mean, that's just Kevin in a nutshell, I think.
Yeah, I agree. That's Kevin in a nutshell. That's how he's been in the house the entire season. That's why people think he's shady, because he acts like this. I also feel like Kevin in the diary room, he is somebody who knows who he is as far as the producers go. Like, he knows that the producers like to portray him as a mastermind, as a gamer, as a Big Brother legend, you know, somebody who really enjoys thinking about the intricacies and the strategies of the game. So I feel like he's going in the diary room and saying, you know, that I'm just using William, or I'm trying to use him to better my game, as a way to assure people that I'm still the same Kevin Martin that you remember. But again, as Taran correctly points out, that he did the same thing before. He can have an honest to God connection with somebody like Peely, and yet still use them as something to position himself better in the game.
Yeah, because I mean, Peely and Kevin ended up dating afterwards,
right? And so she's still rooting for him.
Right, even though he's saying, like, oh, I'm manipulating her, or I'm, like, controlling her, or whatever he may have said, he still actually had feelings for her outside of the house. So it's hard to reconcile those things.
Right. I think part of it is just the language he uses, where like he talks about the game, and this is also sort of why we often, or at least I don't want to say why Alex often misjudged, like very wildly misjudged Kevin as a player, because when Kevin talks about the game, he talks about it very well. Like he knows exactly what to like the intricacies of the strategy, and like you have to position people here, and so he's looking at the game sort of like a chessboard, and I think he talks about the people in that way, where he's like, I'm using William to do this, which doesn't mean that he is like manipulating William, or like pretending that he doesn't, or pretending that he cares when he doesn't. I think what he means is, I have this great relationship with William, and I'm using that relationship to do this in the game. And I don't think he realizes how the term using comes off as, you know what I mean?
Right.
I really think that's where a large part of the disconnect comes from, I think.
Yeah.
It's a lot of what Alex said, was it last night on the podcast, where he was talking about, it was Monday night, when he was talking to you and Rob about, people hear the same thing, but they all have different perceptions of what they just heard. And neither one of them are lying, and they're both thinking that they're being truthful about it. But I feel like, Kevin feels like he's not using William, because he has a genuine connection with him. But on the other hand, he's saying that to us in the diary room, but he's like, oh, but that's not true. But then he goes in the diary room and says, oh, that's not true. It can't be both. It can't be both. Something has to be true.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about that jury segment. I was very, very looking forward to this one. Yeah. It wasn't, I mean, that is great. I love that she's not bitter. And I'm usually not the person that's going to be like, oh man, I wish they were more dramatic and like angry at each other. But there was a part of me that was like, can we get a little more like JP and Cindy, a little less Netta and Cindy? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, Brent?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The problem is that Netta thinks she's she's been portrayed as a complete and utter bitch and villain this entire time. So if she didn't think that, I think she would. Even if she doesn't truly feel that way, and I know that Netta wants to vote for the best player. I know she said that going into the house. So I don't feel like she would ever be a bitter juror. But she can definitely be bitter at Cindy. Like, I would expect her to be bitter at Cindy, because she's like, I told you so, Yeah. But I feel like she wants to put on a happy face for everybody because she knows how she's been portrayed on Big Brother Canada, and that's what you get. You know, nobody likes to be hated. I don't know of anybody that likes to be hated. Nah, you could see she was crying coming out of the house. She even said at the beginning of the jury segment before Cindy got there that she's still human. Like she knows she was a villain, but she also knows that it still hurts, and she wants to let people know that. So I wasn't surprised by this segment at all.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely Netta thinking, okay, how do I show that whatever the way they portrayed me as was just part of the game, just in the house, just like a big show. Okay, now I have to be overly nice and overly sweet and just fine with everything. And like, oh, it was all just a game. It was all a game. That was all an act in the jury house. And that's her way to show Canada, like, look, this is who I am. Like, that wasn't me. That was the game, Netta. So I mean, I totally get it. It sucks because we want to see genuine reactions, but we're not going to get it.
It felt a little bit too saccharine for me. I can understand Netta being, the better person and thinking, it's just a game. And I do think that's true. But the honest to God reaction, the one that the producers want from you is the one that you want to naturally give, which is, girl, what were you thinking? Come on. Mm-hmm. Like, I told you. Like, I mean, she could have said that and still been fine with Cindy. But instead, maybe she had a little bit too much wine. I don't know. I mean, she was just like, hey, girl, how you doing? Oh, it's okay. We're all losers. No, it really wasn't fun to watch at all.
I feel like she could have said that, no hard feelings. But at the same time, still be like, why did you do that? Like, why? Like, I'm not mad at you as a person, but why? Like, it didn't make any sense strategy-wise. Look what happened to you right afterwards. Like, I just wish that she had gotten more out of Cindy rather than Cindy just being like, I don't know, like, sorry. Right. Like, now we're friends again.
The closest thing she got was Netta saying that, Cindy won't admit that she made a mistake. That was the only thing that I got out of this entire segment that I thought was, okay, I understand. Because that's how she was on the interview with Rob. Mm-hmm. She was like, like I compared her to Miss South Carolina. She's like, I don't know. Just like, yeah, that's how she was. So I'm not surprised that she was that way with Netta.
You know who pulled off the perfect balance between totally not bitter, but still entertaining in the jury? Mitch Moffat. He's great. You got to follow Mitch's example, right? All right.
I'm giving you silence.
I was expecting bones.
Yeah, he was great. He was fun.
Anytime I mention Mitch.
You know what? I have a hot take. Actually, Mitch was more fun in the jury house than he was in the real house. Love you, Mitch.
All right. So, I mean, I appreciate Netta's perspective. Like, I appreciate what she's portraying. That's what I want to see out of a juror member. Mm-hmm. It didn't make for the most exciting jury segment. We sometimes look forward to those jury segments. But I at the very least, I understand why she did what she did, and I appreciate the fact that she's saying she does not want this to be a bitter jury. I like that attitude out of a jury. We'll see ultimately how that ends up. But I think that definitely points toward, if somebody like Ika is sitting there in the end, there's no way that Netta doesn't vote for Ika, right? Because she wants to prove that she's not bitter and she wants to respect the person that got her out of the game. I think that Netta will be campaigning for Ika in the jury house. Even if they come back to her with all the things that she's been saying about her, I think even then, I think she'll still probably do it.
I think so, for sure.
Yes. So we get to this vote. As I mentioned, we got cheers when Kevin votes out Karen, and boos when Ika votes out Bruno. That seems very shocking to me. Again, I don't know how representative that is for the general viewing audience or for the super fan. I have no idea. It's not the reaction that I would have expected, knowing what I know about what I see from the general fan base, which is like full board, Team Ika, and definitely not Team. I mean, everyone was calling Bruno boring. I didn't realize that he. But great for him for having the audience.
I mean, because I really I joke sometimes that I'm the man of the people, but I really do feel like I understand where the public is coming from on this one, because I feel like they're mirroring my feelings on this, because I was very anti Kevin and Bruno for a long time because they were running the house. But then once they're not running the house anymore and they had a couple of bad breaks go against them, now all of a sudden I'm Team Kevin and Bruno again. I was trying to hoping hoping that Bruno could find a way to keep himself. And I love Karen, but I really was hoping that Bruno could pull it off and that Kevin and Bruno could remain in the house together because I'm kind of rooting for Demetrius and Ika, but was not meant to be. And I understood where the cheers were coming from because you were a little peeved at Karen after that segment. And you understood that there's a natural animosity from Kevin. I mean, I feel like Kevin's doing a good job. Kevin's behaving a lot better than I would because, I'd have told her where to go. Kevin just was like, Karen, please don't call me stupid. Like no one likes that. Like I'll be like, he was really the bigger person about it. And that has to take a lot of wherewithal to be able to not respond in the way that you naturally want to.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm absolutely one of those fickle fans who roots for the underdog. I always try and say that I'm not, but I always then start to feel like tugs on my heartstrings being like, they're on the bottom, they're by themselves. Like poor Bruno and Kevin, when literally just a week ago, I was like, get them out of here. Like, I totally go back and forth. Whenever somebody's an underdog, I root for them. I can't help it. I mean, obviously I try and keep perspective on the game. There's nobody in the house that I hate. Absolutely not. I don't hate anybody this season, which is really great. But overall, like it's absolutely the underdog like scenario where you root for the people who are struggling. And so I could totally see where people would be rooting for, Bruno to stay. Cause like at this point I was rooting for him to try and pull something through.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw somebody in the chat calling me a mindless underdog casual. And I feel like, but that's totally I totally own that. Like, I mean, I get it. Yeah. Like, and I feel like that's kind of why like I work on the podcast sometimes is because I am kind of like that. And like, there's an element to me that's very casual. And I'm like, that's why, I'm team Rachel, I love Rachel Riley. And a lot of like the people who are strategists, the gamers, they don't really care for Rachel Riley, but I love Rachel Riley and I worship her. And I feel like there's a little bit of casual in everybody.
You're the everyman for the podcast.
I go back and forth every week because, when someone gets in power, like one week I was very pro Ika and Demetrius, and the next week I'm very pro Bruno and Kevin, and the next week I'm back to being on the other train. I go back and forth, and I think a lot of fans do that. They do the same thing because it's fun to see different people in power each week. It's not fun to just have somebody, ramrod their way to the end. It's so much better to have a push and pull.
I saw some fans.
Effect.
I saw some fans responding to me on Twitter earlier, and they were like, bye Dimitri, bye Ika, because they don't really like him. And I'm like, I've never seen these kind of tweets before. I really haven't, but that's what happens when you're in power for so long. People start to root against you.
Yeah, the undercat effect is very real. And you guys have been saying it wrong. What's wrong with you?
I have no idea where that came from. Explain. I'm sure some people was like me, like, why are you saying undercat instead of underdog?
It was from
it was on one of our episodes with Rob.
Oh, I must have missed that
a while back. It was our hashtag.
Okay. I must have missed that. Wow.
Yeah.
Me miss a
Someone
podcast?
In the chat,
Never.
Someone in the chat just said that the fans are the ultimate floaters, and it's totally true.
Totally true. Come on.
They go the opposite
Although
way.
we float to the people who are not in power.
I have to say, though, I have been team Demetrius and Ika almost this entire time. Like, I can't. In fact, I don't think there was ever a time that I wasn't. I've just loved them. I think Demetrius is so funny and so goofy. And, Ika is just giving me everything that I want in a reality TV show contestant. And the fact that they're together and they're both so hot. I mean, how can you not love them? They're just great.
And I think they held the undercat position for quite a while. I think it was long enough to establish a firm fan base to the point where people really want them to win, even though they're now making some mistakes and they're both in power and making mistakes and being played by other people. The fans are sticking pretty much true, I think, to Ika and Demetrius. So we do have to get to the vote by a vote of 5-1. Karen, you are safe. I love that she was trying to get a reaction out of Karen.
It lasted so long.
I know. I wanted Karen's eyes to just like bulge out of her head in that moment, but
Karen to be like, whatever. I told you all. I told you it was gonna be me, and then her be like, Karen, no, you're safe. Sit down.
Yeah. Bruno, he gives Kevin a big hug on the way out. He says, "You got this, Kev." And he says too in his interview with Arissa, he tried to set Kevin up to win the game. He did his best to set Kevin up, and that's very true. He spent a lot of his time not campaigning for himself and more campaigning to help Kevin in the game moving forward. How do you feel about this, Brent?
I mean, I'm sort of two minds about it. It really was tough going. I mean, Bruno is a smart guy, and he just could not see a way for him to get 4 votes this week. It had to be 4 votes, or it had to be 3 votes with essentially Ika's support, because there's no way that Dimitri's going to break a tie in his favor if Ika's not supporting it. So he was in a really bad spot as far as the numbers go. I'll throw a little bit of shade at him because I feel like there were some people that he didn't campaign to. But on the other hand, I don't know what he should have said to those people to get them to change. I don't know. I mean, maybe he could have got Will's vote but Will was amenable to supporting him at like at different times. If he could get everyone else or get some other people. I feel like the linchpin to everything was either Dre or Ika. Really, probably Ika. I don't feel like Dre is going to vote against Ika here until she knows where, like, she's not going to pull a move like that and turn her back on her number one ally, who has been her number one ally this entire time. So I really do feel like the linchpin was Ika, and Bruno worked on Ika. He really did. And after he realized that it wasn't going anywhere, then that's when he started to set up Kevin's game for him a little bit better next week by talking with Dylan and Karen. And but the problem is that some of that got back to Ika and Dimitri's. So, if God forbid Ika wins HOH, then she's not exactly happy with Kevin going into it.
Yeah, to Bruno's credit, he did make a strong push to stay. He came a lot closer than most people come in terms of, actually making a good case and really almost getting Ika, kind of getting close to getting Dimitri at some point, but it wasn't sticking. And that was really the only route he had. And without any new information to bring them, like, hey, Dre's trying to screw you.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have to make sure Rob asks in his exit interview with Bruno, why did you not expose that Dre was in on the plan? Not only did she know that that Ika and Dimitri's were maybe going up when Dylan won HOH, but she was whole hog rooting against Dimitri's to win the veto. She wanted to get him out of the house so that Ika would be loyal to her. I mean, that's what he needed to say to her. He never exposed that piece of information. I am lost as to why he didn't, and I really want to know. Maybe he thinks he did, but I feel like he's a better player than that. Like, Taran, well, why did he not tell somebody that?
I think I speculated, like, I think maybe he just forgot. I think that's the only explanation.
That could change this entire season if they knew that Dre was plotting against Dimitri's when he was head of household. I mean, I don't know if he would ever put her up, but he might not have put up Kevin and Bruno. And with Kevin and Bruno, Ika and Dimitri's united, that would have been a fearsome foursome going into a triple eviction.
Yeah, and I really think they should have done it. I really think, and
we thought this before. We thought this before we knew there was a triple eviction. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, like you said, I think what we're looking at with this triple eviction, and again, even without it, is we're probably going to see Kevin, Ika, and Dimitri going out pretty quickly in succession. So, man.
All in one night. That's just, if you're a producer on a show, that's a nightmare for you, because all of your stars going out, all of their exit interviews are the same day, all of the press happens on the same day. If something interesting happens with one of them, it gets overshadowed by somebody else. It's just, I'm at a loss as to why they're doing this now. I really am, and I'm going to stop throwing shade at them about it, but I'll continue on Twitter.
Yes, and Bruno, again, he did say in his interview with Larissa, he really was up for going to Final Four with Ike and Dimitri.
And I felt like that too.
Yeah,
I felt like that. Gosh, yes.
So another interesting thing, I think, was the goodbye message by Dre, where she basically says, "Hey, look, I did this. I took you out, and I'm coming for Kev and Ika next." And the new players are taking over. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's hard, because obviously this is kind of an aggressive goodbye message, but she's also taking a lot of strategic credit and showing to Bruno, at least, like, I am the one in charge. You thought it was Ika, but I am playing Ika, and she is the one being manipulated by me. Is it going to work with Bruno, though? Because we know Bruno, not the biggest fan of Dre, and he does like Ika more than he likes Dre. So what do you think, Melissa? What do you think of this goodbye message?
I think it's an interesting strategy. I mean, I think it's also important because at this point, people don't see Dre pulling any strings or really doing much of anything. They're thinking it's all coming from Ika and that Ika is manipulating Dre and everybody else in the house. So I think it's kind of crucial that she show in whatever way she can that she's making big moves and that she's controlling people, and that she's not just sitting around and that people aren't just telling her what to do. She's in control. So I definitely think it's good for, end game.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was reading something in the chat. I wanted to respond to that. The thing about her goodbye message to me is that it felt a little bit catty, and nobody likes to be made a fool. And I feel like she was trying to make Bruno feel like a fool. Like, haha, I got you out. I'm going for the other vets now. Like, I don't think that's really a way to get his vote. On the other hand, I don't feel like Dre's ever going to get his vote. I just don't see Bruno voting for a player like Dre, somebody who's behind the scenes, who's working her magic, where nobody can see it. I feel like that Bruno is going to want to vote for somebody who's more out in front. Now, he may ultimately not have the chance. There might be basically Dre and somebody else who was even more invisible in the final two. And in that case, maybe he would vote for her. But I think she knows her audience, and maybe she's just like, I don't even like you, to hell with you. This is what's going to happen. And the only thing I will say is that I said on Twitter that or maybe in a chat room I said this, that she's doing her best to be hated by Canada. And I feel like that is true. Like, when you go into the diary room and leave a goodbye message to somebody who's just been voted out, who's a fan favorite, and you say, see ya, and by the way, I'm coming for your two friends too, the two people who came in the house with you, people that are loved by Canada. I feel like the audience responded really badly to that. And she better thank her lucky stars that there's no Canada's vote or involvement coming up anytime soon, because I don't imagine many people like her right now.
And also, the audience reaction to the goodbye message is going to have some influence on the person listening. If the audience is like, oh, when Dre says that, he's going to be like, oh, well, she's not doing very well. You know what I mean? Like, that's ingrained in him, even if he doesn't register it consciously. And I do agree. I think taking the credit is good, because she should be getting the credit, and it might be going unnoticed. But the way she did it was just a little too aggressive, especially for somebody like Bruno, who has talked about, he never really connected with her in the house. Right. He never really got along with her. So I'm not sure she can count on a Bruno jury vote here. I feel like he's certainly not going to be evangelizing for her.
I feel like she should have done a little bit more ass kissing here. Like, Bruno is a Big Brother legend. He could have won Big Brother 3 if not for an inopportune twist. And, he played a mighty game this time around. Had a few bad breaks go where his own alliance won HOH, and then somehow members of their own alliance got voted out. So I feel like she could have done a little bit more ass kissing there, and he would have probably remembered that. But she didn't do any of that.
Well, I mean, I think the move is, look, Bruno, you're so good at this game. Right. I needed to get you out. I need to get the vets out. They're too good.
I'm terrified of you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You're still taking credit, but you're playing up to his ego. I think he would have liked that a lot. But
definitely.
Okay, so then we get started on this HOH competition. They're holding little weights against plates, and it's an endurance competition. This is like really reminiscent of Survivor, right? Like, this is the most Survivor-esque challenge I think I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also looked basically impossible for me. Like, there's no way that I'd be able to do that. Like, holding up my arms like that, I have absolutely no upper body strength. I get tired when washing my hair in the shower. So I literally I was like, well, great. Like, a girl is not going to win this one, is what I just kept thinking to myself.
Yeah, I guess we need a washing your hair challenge.
Yeah, well, I'd lose that too, so.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to some questions. Just a couple questions before we talk about some spoilers, because we do know who won the HOH. We don't know much apart from that. At least I don't know much apart from that. There's been some stuff happening as we talked, but I haven't been able to keep track of it. So anyway, some questions. We got one from Hope. She says, with the triple eviction coming up, do you think Kevin will fall victim to history repeating itself? What do you think the chances are, Melissa?
I think the chances are real good, which is disappointing. I I'm just so disappointed that this is like, I really thought that they weren't going to do another, I thought they'd do probably another double, but I did not think, I mean, because we just talked about this last night on the podcast saying that we thought they'd do another double, but we didn't think that they would do a triple or an instant or anything or a jury buyback or anything like that. Like we thought it was going to be a very clean game to the end. And yeah.
Yeah, I think Kevin's in a lot of trouble here. I think there's not a lot of scenarios where Kevin does not go home in this double, because I don't think he's necessarily anyone's number one target at the moment, except for maybe Ika. But even then, it's like he's mostly just right now he's one of those people that's like a number 2 target, a number 3 target. Somebody that would go up on the block in a triple and just be a victim of, well, we needed to send somebody else home too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, no one would be hurt by Kevin going up on the block, really. I mean, he doesn't really have anyone left except maybe William. So, you know, he's just an easy person to put up on the block, not upset people. I mean, depending on who gets HOH, it's just an easy third person to throw up there.
All right, another question from Stephanie. Who could safely lose this HOH and not worry about being targeted? Brent, what do you think about this?
Dre, number 1. I don't feel like anybody is going to put Dre on the block, even, well, I was going to say even in a triple, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about this one. I feel like that she's pretty well insulated herself, and Bruno correctly pointed that out. He was trying to campaign a little bit against Dre to Ika. Of course, Ika immediately went and told Dre, like, you know, this is what Bruno's been saying about you. So I just, it's very frustrating how much Ika trusts Dre and how sneaky Dre is in regards to Ika. I mean, she just is like, I almost can't stand her when she's not with her, because she's like, you know, Ika, you know, you were, you know, had a vets alliance against me and we need to get you out. You know, the vets got to get out of here. Like, I mean, if Ika even got a sniff of this, I feel like her opinion would be changed, and she would not immediately run everything back to Dre like they are, you know, girls back home. But that's what it feels like right now.
I'm so shocked that some of the stuff that Dre has said hasn't gotten back to Ika yet, because she has not been afraid to go around to everybody except for Dre and Dimitris and say, you know, we got to get the vets out. We got to get Dre and Ika and Dimitris out. We got to get them out. You know, she said it to everybody, and it's not gotten back to Ika yet, which it's just crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, looking at this coming eviction, you know, excluding the triple for now, this next coming week, it's hard to imagine anybody going home other than Ika, Dimitri, or Kevin. Maybe William, maybe small chance of William, but I think the other 4 are completely safe. I don't see any scenario where Jackie, Karen, Dylan, or Dre go home here.
Right. Exactly. And of course, they should see that. You know, if you can't see that going into this HOH competition, that, you know, look, we're warring against ourselves here. Maybe we should change the dynamics of the game. You know, somebody has to trust first. You know, if you're in power, you have to trust. So if any one of those 4 wins, I mean, maybe not William, I don't know how he feels necessarily, but I feel like somebody has to take a leap of faith. And, you know, you have to put your trust in your position. I heard you on a podcast earlier, Taran, saying that Ika and Dimitris for now have chosen trust over positioning. And I just feel like that when you're playing with people this long in the house, that's probably a wrong call. There have been people who've done it. People like, I think, Derek Lavasser, but even he, I feel like, was positioned correctly while also at the same time trusting people who were a little bit too dumb to trust him as much as they did. I feel like that at this point you always want to have, because position is set. It's a fallback. You know, if trust falls through, at least you have your position. But if all you have is your trust, then you're putting yourself in a really dicey situation.
Yeah, I think that's very astute there. All right, from Ben Scribner. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. If Kev survives the triple, what are his chances of winning Big Brother? What do you think, Melissa?
I think it's really hard because it depends who goes home in the triple. Because, you know, if the triple ends up getting out, Ika and Dimitris, then yeah, he has a good chance of winning. But if you know, the triple gets out some of the people who might come in between them and who might have gone out before Kevin, then I don't know. So, but I do think that if he survives the triple, he has a good chance of making it to the end.
I agree.
I definitely think so.
I agree because the competitions in Final Five and on are typically competitions that are going to favor somebody like Kevin. I feel like that, whoever, if, like I said, Ika or Demetrius can't compete, but if Ika or Kevin win the next HOH competition, they're going to have to change the storyline, which is, we're playing against each other and all of these people in the middle are just laughing at us. And, you feel like you can trust them, but you really can't. So, like, let's unite, realize that we're both sitting ducks and go after them and shake things up, because otherwise we know how this story ends. We're going to continue to war against each other until there's none of us left and all the people in the middle get to have fun.
It's true. All right. I think we're ready for some spoilers. I think we need to know who won this HOH. So here's the spoiler song plays now. And we're back.
That's really ghetto. That's a spoiler song plays now. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Just edit that out, Scott. That was terrible. All right. So who won HOH, Melissa?
Kevin won HOH.
Oh, Kevin.
Kevin. The exact same thing that happened to him last triple eviction.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only that, but Kevin and Dre were apparently the last two standing, and Dre made a deal with Kevin for him not to put her up. And Ika and Demetrius are not happy about that at all, especially Ika, because she's like, why didn't Dre make the deal the other way? Which is, I won't put you up if you throw it to me. But instead, she was all too willing to throw it to Kevin. And that should be a clue. So what the hell? I mean, do you need somebody to come up with a damn megaphone and tell you? She's not on your side. She made a deal 2 weeks ago that said that you were going to be on the block. You know that. Ika is aware that Dre was aware. Ika is aware that Dre made a deal with Dylan where Dylan said it's probably going to be Ika and Demetrius. Dre was okay with that. Now, Dre has deflected that essentially by saying, that he said we could talk and, blah, blah. He wasn't as sad as I thought he was. Well, all well and good. But when they stepped off the stand, those were going to be the nominees. Ika's aware of this. So now she's made another deal with what, at least going into today, is Ika's arch enemy in Kevin, because Ika's really, really mad at Kevin because, in my opinion, Kevin was overplaying a little bit, telling his plans to people. He's trying to make sure he's basically trying to make sure he's covered everywhere. And in doing so, it got back to Ika that Kevin has been saying he's going to put them up. Now, I don't know if he's going to put them up. I don't know what his true intentions were at the time, but they started the war again, and I didn't like that. They did make a deal going into this HOH competition. I read on Twitter that if either one of them won, Ika or Kevin, that they wouldn't put the other ones up. So we'll see. I know that they're talking right now in the HOH room, or they were, and I'm not convinced that he's going to put Ika and Demetrius up, but he's going to have a lot of pressure from everybody in the house. And again, that should tell him something. If these 5 people over here are all saying, put those 2 up, then they're wanting you to do their work for them. Don't do their work for them, Kevin. Not to mention the horrible sense of humor that Big Brother has, that he has won HOH. He's going to be the outgoing HOH going into the triple, just like he was the last time.
Yep.
So he can't even compete for the power of HOH. It's all on the veto. And unless William, that's his only lifeline. If William, I'm already talking about the triple, but if William wins the triple, then Kevin's safe. But if William doesn't win the triple, then I feel like Kevin has to fight for his life in a 1-in-6 veto competition. So he's got to be smart about these nominations. He cannot put up Demetrius and Ika. I know some people want him to on Twitter, but it's not the right game move for him, and I'm praying that he can see that.
Yeah. I think if he shows his loyalty to them in this situation, it'll bode well for moving forward. But I also think that if he does put them up and one of them goes out, that leaves him totally vulnerable for the next one, because you know that all the other 5 are trying to get Ika and Demetrius out. And just like you were saying, that should be a clue to him that they're not with Ika and Demetrius. You need to put yourself in a good position moving forward. And the best way to do that is to see that Ika and Demetrius are on the outs and put yourself with them. create something new and say everybody else was trying to get you guys out and I am going to save you.
Yes, you need to shake up the chessboard. The chessboard is positioned in a way that is not advantageous for either one of you. So move some pieces around, make people scared. Don't tell everybody that they're going to be safe, that I may nominate Ike Demetrius. And I don't know that he's done that. I'm just saying, you don't want to, because if you tell people they're safe, then they stop talking. They're like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm good now. You know, I need to worry about anything. So, and by the way, I will also call out Ike and Demetrius. Their behavior has not been great going after this. They're mad at Dre. I know she might be mad at Dre, but don't tell Dre that you're mad. Don't give her the dirty look and let her know that you're pissed that she made a deal. And don't haul yourself out in the backyard with the Demetrius and sit there and snuggling and cuddling while the other 5 or 6 people are up there laughing at you. I mean, just bad gameplay all the way around. I'm hoping that Kevin saves this. Look, here's the thing. If Kevin nominates Ike and Demetrius, or if they somehow, one of them goes out this week, Taran, it's over. It's over. Kevin's going to go out in the triple unless he wins the veto, and it's going to be some combination of Ike, Demetrius, and Kevin. If he takes a leap of faith and keeps them off the block and goes after Karen, because it'd be easy for him to do, and people in the middle, like Dre, like if he went after, like, can you imagine Karen and Dre nominations? Oh my God. I mean, that would just be, then the house would totally reorganize. It would just be wonderful. And I'm hoping that he can see that, because Bruno has made him see that Dre's in an amazing position in the house. So I'm hoping he can see. Again, I'm trying to use my telepathy here, you know, and I'm really hoping that it works.
Well, it's interesting because it's basically the shoe is on the other foot here. Last week, Ike and Dimitri were in a position where Bruno and Kevin were telling them, you are in so much trouble next week if you don't keep us. And they decided not to because they couldn't trust them. And Kevin found out last week after they made that pitch, long after they made that pitch, Ike was trying to convince everyone in the house to target Kevin. And so he needs to now go from that to, listen, guys, again, I know we already made this pitch to each other before, but now I'm in the position of power and I'm still making this pitch. We need to trust each other. I know you were trying to get me out. It doesn't matter. Those people are going to win this game if we go after each other. Mm-hmm. However, I do think there's a little bit more of a risk here than there was last week for Ike and Dimitri, where once Dre is exposed and everybody is exposed for the whole going after Ike and Dimitri thing, I think Ike and Dimitri are much more capable of winning those players back over once they have power again. So I don't think it's a given that Kevin can trust Ike and Dimitri to not just turn around and stab him right in the back in the triple if they do win, because, oh man, we did get out that backstabbing Dre or, whoever it is that they need to get out. But we also managed to rope in Jackie because Jackie's willing to work with us. And Dylan is now, by himself. And oops, Kevin, you also went in the triple. Sorry. So, I mean, there's not a lot of play. I think that's a risky move as it is. It's probably the only move, though, because as it stands, everybody in that triple is going to target Kevin, probably as the second target, not as the first, but that's just as good. And unfortunately, he doesn't know that the triple is coming up, and he doesn't obviously know that he won't be eligible for that triple. So there are a lot of factors that he's not aware of that make it even more vital that he reach out with an olive branch with Ike and Dimitri and really try to reshuffle the deck here.
Really try. He has to try. If he just does the easy thing, the thing that everybody expects him to do, then the storyline is going to continue to play out the way it has been. And he's aware that the current storyline is bad for him. He's aware that he's probably only safe because he won HOH. So how do you change that? You alter the way that the characters are interacting with each other. You don't tell people that they're safe. Put some different nominees. I mean, again, I say that the people in the middle, he has to realize how safe they feel and how unworried they are. If I was ever in the house and I was mad at someone, as I'm can be in my normal life, and I'm realizing that the house wants me to get them out for them. They don't care about me. They're using me to do their work. I'd be like, screw you all. I'm coming after you now because I don't like being used. There's a lot of things people don't like. Being used is one of them. That's what we were talking about earlier with William. He doesn't want to feel used. People don't like to feel used. So I'm hoping that Kevin can realize that. But I don't know. But if anybody can do it, I do feel like Kevin can. Because I feel like that even though we throw shade at his social game, and rightly so, I do feel like from a with his poker background, from a positional point of view, he has to see the way that the game pieces are on the board right now. Don't you think, Melissa?
I mean, I would think so. It's really tough though when you're right there in it, and when people are telling you all different things. It's hard to just like kind of see the overhead view and be able to be like, okay, well, this person's lying to me. This person's telling me the truth. Like, I need to align with this person in order to get further. Like, we're omniscient. We know what's going on. He doesn't. He's sitting in there and he doesn't know. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he decides to do this week, and because it could totally change up the game.
By the way, I will say that the chat room is telling me that Ika's making it really difficult for Kevin to trust her with this current conversation. I don't have the conversation in front of me because I'm on the podcast with you, but I can guess what it's like because I know Ika. She has been really messy with her game. She just talks too much. And as somebody pointed out correctly on Twitter, when she's stressed, she talks even more. And a lot of the things that she's saying to Kevin, I'm sure she's saying something like, I was mad at you and I heard you were talking about me. Girl, he has HOH. You need to be kissing his butt right now. But that's the part of Ika that's not the good game player. We love Ika because she keeps it real, but keeping it real in this instance, I don't feel like is in her best interest. But still, even as bad as she plays, I feel like that Kevin should be able to figure out that it's not the correct move.
Yeah, according to the chat, she's like trashing Bruno and handling it very poorly. Man, that's unfortunate.
Well, thank God he doesn't have to do nominations right now.
Yeah. And I mean, sort of, I forget who said it, but, the problem that Kevin has right now is that, again, he doesn't know that the triple's coming. And that's really the piece that's like, it makes it especially vital that he does this. There's some reason to think he might be safe if he takes out Ika or something, leaving Dimitri as a big target, or vice versa. And that those players would go after Ika before him, which would leave him safe for another week, and then he could move forward. But with the triple, he will definitely go next to them, and so that's what he's not going to be able to see, and that's, I think, one of the bigger reasons why he might not make this move ultimately. Bruno.
He should realize that, and I know you can't predict the twists, but he should realize he knows how much time is left in the game right now. So he knows that they're at least going to have another double coming up, and they haven't. It's been a couple weeks, so it's likely that it may come up, and he would be the outgoing HOH. I know a double's not the same as a triple, but it still leaves him in a very vulnerable spot if he gets out Dimitris or Ika, especially if he gets out Dimitris. Like, let's take Dimitris off the board after you just saw Kevin win this competition where he's using his upper body to hold these things against the wall. You know how Big Brother players think. They're going to want to get him out because they're going to think of him as a beast in some of these competitions. He's smart and he's also physical, and he's showing that to them now. Oh gosh, yeah. I feel like he can figure this out. I'm sorry. I'll shut up because I'm starting to repeat myself, because I'm really nervous that if he does this, then we're going to be left with 5 people that I consider totally unlikable. It would be like the Pax brothers and Kelsey if they cloned themselves and also throw in Jared. Like that's how it would be. Ugh.
Yeah. It's a rough spot.
Let's keep hope alive.
And it's like Bruno set him up in this position, right? Where it's like he set him up for this week to be safe. Like if Kevin didn't win this HOH, Bruno was trying to set him up so that he would be safe. And I think he was. Yeah. All he needed to worry about was Ika. I don't think he needed this HOH. And I understand, of course, why he won it. He was on the ropes last week. He was definitely in some danger, for sure. And again, he can't predict that the triple is coming up, which makes this HOH even worse. But, I think winning this is going to be the death knell to Kevin's game here. And it's gonna mirror what happened last time. Yeah. Outgoing HOH into the triple.
Somebody in the chat, Trevor, says, you find William and Jackie unlikable? I mean, bitch, I hope you're being sarcastic, but how can you not? Like, I mean, Jackie is such a rat floater. I mean, she makes Andy look somewhat noble. And William, to me, is just somebody who I can't stand because he's been told that he's being used, and he still continues to touch the hot stove. I just don't understand it.
I like William. I'm a William fan.
Yeah.
Jackie, I don't mind Jackie so much, but I also feel like she's just not really doing anything, so I can't really have that much.
You know what it is about William? It's that damn coat. He wears that coat every time for a special event, and it looks terrible. It's tacky.
That's the reason. That's the reason.
You've been hating on William's looks all podcasts.
Yeah, gonna continue.
No, I think William's fine. I think he's like kind of funny in the diary room. I gotta say,
I love his diary room stuff. I love how funny he's so funny, and I like him in on the feeds. I don't know. I'm a William fan, so but I also I'm pretty much a fan of everybody who's left at this point. And I was a fan of everybody before this. So there really hasn't been anybody that I've just
even
hated
Jackie,
or really disliked.
Jackie.
I've been, I'm not a huge fan of Jackie, but I don't hate her. I think that she can be really annoying sometimes with just the way that she, she goes back and forth, and just tells everybody secrets to everybody.
Right.
But, I don't quite mind her because I also feel for her. I feel bad for her. She feels like she has no friends. She feels like she has nobody.
So you're one of
she's completely alone.
Like you're that girl I knew you were. Yeah, were you okay. So
I do feel bad for her. I mean, I do feel bad. I feel like she's this whole game she hasn't had anybody. So she's, what else is she gonna do? She doesn't trust anyone anymore. Anytime she puts her trust in somebody, they just rip her heart out. It's so sad. She was so excited when they made the Peasant Alliance, and then all of a sudden they throw her under the bus upstairs. I don't know. I'm not a Jackie huge Jackie fan or anything. I don't hate her, and I don't hate anybody who's on the show.
I know. I'm just throwing shade. People who listen to my RuPaul's Drag Race podcast will know the little meme about you're that girl I knew you were because it happened on RuPaul's Drag Race. But I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I'm worried. I like Dre. I like Dre's game. Okay, it's not especially intriguing, but it's an interesting game, and if she can pull it off, she would be a very worthy winner of Big Brother Canada 5. The problem is that I feel like if she's successful with her plan, I feel like she's going to fall at the 20-mile marker of a marathon where she gets all the vets out and then all of a sudden now she is the biggest target. Now she's the most likable person there. The people who are worried about getting to the final two, the strategic person, the person who has a friend in everybody. And I really feel like that she might go out 5th or 4th. And then we're left with the horrible combination of Dylan and Jackie and Karen. That'd just be.
I could absolutely see them cutting her right at the last minute.
Yeah, me too. If she's gonna do all this work, you've got to take it home. You can't get rid of all my favorites and then fall on your face at the final 4.
Yeah.
You have to take it.
Yeah, I feel like there are some players that they kind of play spoiler, right? Where it's they do really well and they take out all the best players, but they can't that's all they're good at, and they're not able to bring it home. And I think Cindy's probably one of those players.
That was Zeke last week on Survivor. That's Zeke was a spoiler last week on Survivor.
I was gonna say that, but
that's okay. It's like us people who care about spoilers. It's been a week, so come on already. Yeah. So things are looking very tense here for Big Brother 5, or Big Brother Canada 5. But still, I think it's been a really good season up to this point. There's only 3 weeks left. Even if things go downhill from here, I think we had a pretty good season. Maybe with a lackluster ending, probably because of a dumb twist they needed to throw in at the last minute. But whatever. We still had a fairly good run up until this point. So let's be grateful. Boy, God, you guys are. Oh, never mind. I can't say it. I was gonna say something that I said on the previous Periscope and that Rob laughed at, but then I'm like, I can't say that on this podcast. So go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So, does anybody have any ideas for a hashtag? Let me know in the chat. Let me know, Brent and Melissa, if you have any either. And also let me know if you have any final thoughts about this episode, about the week moving forward. Any thoughts that you have?
We have said it all because I'm just worried, and I feel like we're at a precipice here where if Kevin goes down this road that seems obvious, he should realize that it's obvious. And I would never make the obvious move in Big Brother. I just feel like that does other people's work, and they're not going to be grateful for it either. Alex Kewell correctly pointed out that there's no such thing as clout or a reward for anybody in the Big Brother game. People make the moves that they make because they feel like it's in their best interest. They're not going to give a damn if Kevin does their work for him. He's totally expendable, and he should realize that.
Yeah. All right, I'm seeing.
These hashtags are crazy.
There's a lot of them. I don't know how many of them are gonna work. I like Unbearable just because it's awful. Let me know if you guys see one.
Yeah, Unbearable. Yes.
Yeah, I like Unbearable, especially because this season could become unbearable. With this triple. Thank you for laughing. So we have the LFC roundtable coming up on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, where we will talk all about what Kevin decided to do with his nominations, everything that's been happening during the week, who won the veto, what they plan to do with it, and everything else moving forward. We'll probably know a lot about what's going to happen in the triple too. So look out for that show. That's a lot of fun. Really like doing that show. We really get into the detail of what's going on, really get into the weeds of it. So check that out. We will also be live in Toronto, May 11th. It is the week before finale, so it's probably going to be a pretty good episode, getting down there. There will be some guests, some Big Brother Canada alumni who are there, who are going to hang out with us. It's going to be awesome.
Yes.
Make sure you come. Don't miss this. It's a bad idea. Karen's gonna yell at you. I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, and I'll be there. So come yell at me. If you're a Big Brother Canada alum who's hated what I said on the podcast about you, come on down and say it to my face.
Yes.
I'll buy you a drink.
Come to the show and then just yell Kevin at us. Just Kevin. All right. So that is it. I just recorded a Team Ninja Warrior podcast with Lita that will be released sometime soon. This has been a pretty fun season so far. It's been enjoyable. Make sure you check it out. Very fun show. Brent, you're still doing the
RuPaul's Drag Race.
RuPaul's, yes.
See, you're that girl. I knew you were. Yeah. Couldn't even remember it. Yes, I'm doing RuPaul's Drag Race. Me, Mike Bloom, and Liana recorded a podcast, and there's another episode coming up. Snatch Game is coming up this Friday.
Oh,
yay! Really I love Snatch Game.
Yes, I'm very excited.
That's very inappropriate.
Very excited about the people, the celebrities that they are doing in the Snatch Game. One contestant is doing a previous drag queen from the show, which has never been done before, and somebody else is doing Miss Universe, and then they crossed it out and put Miss Columbia. So obviously the Miss Columbia who was announced incorrectly as Miss Universe. Yes. That should be fun.
That's great.
Oh man, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, so
I'm just gonna lap along.
Yes. Okay, so for Brent and Melissa, I am Taran Armstrong. #unbearable. We will see you next time.